Richard Krause.
There's the interesting moment at the beginning of the film when the diplomat and her husband have just arrived and they're meeting the staff, and everyone assumes that he is the diplomat.
Right.
And then it sort of gets straightened away from there.
That's why I just alluded to that is it's automatically assumed that because he's the male and because he's the genuine Canadian as opposed to, a mixed grill, which is what she says. Stella asks at one point, she says, is Madam Indian? Because she looks, Lisa Ray, as a matter of fact, is half Indian, and her mother was Polish. And I told Lisa, I said, Lisa, I'm going to use that in the film. She said, of course, go ahead. And she says so. She says, my Hindi is, I don't understand what you said. So she says, Madam is Indian? She says, no, I'm half Polish, I'm half Indian. I was born in Toronto, I'm Canadian. And you look around you here, Richard, isn't that what almost every second person is? That's why people like me choose to live also in Toronto especially. It is wonderful to walk into a restaurant and to walk into a library. Well, yeah, just walk in any public space and you hear different accents and you see different colors.
And languages being used and all.
It is, and of course different cuisines. I almost think there are better restaurants here than you get in New York now. I honestly believe that, and I'm not saying that because we're sitting here in Toronto at Sutton Place. It's a reality, and so we wanted to evoke some of that, evoke absence of that flavor in India, because in India there's a huge class thing. There's no casteism in the film, but people have asked me very often is why was the chef Christian? Did you make a Christian chef? I said, no. Well, I said, her little nanny was Hindu. She also becomes a little devil at the end of it. And well, but why are you, being belligerent about it? He said, I'm not being belligerent. I mean, this is a reality. We had a cook called Stella. My wife and I employed a cook called Stella. She was not a kleptomaniac, but she loved hitting the bottle now and then. Well, more now than then. My daughter, who was at that point 9 years old, had a nanny called Tanu, who was beautiful, and she ran away with the chauffeur. But that's all right. But Deepa and I drew from these very rich tapestries that our lives have been part of, and it was wonderful to have Deepa's insight. She's so good, so it was great to have her as my collaborator and as my mentor in this.
Well, that's why the movie, I guess, starts off with a credit that says this is based on an almost true story, right?
And that's true.
There's a lot of elements from that.
That's true.
Well, what is it about the Metha family that has drawn everyone to film? It's unusual, I think to have a brother and sister who are both filmmakers.
Richard, it starts with my father. My father was a major distributor, and he and his partners owned theatre chains in northern India. And for example, I remember seeing the film Psycho about, I think, 21 times, because he had a private box next to his office, but I just couldn't, I only saw it 21 times because I could never bring myself to see the shower scene. And I think on the 21st occasion, everybody held me on there and said, you've got to see it this time, enough. So yes, and, all these stars from Mumbai, from Bollywood would come for premieres and all this. So we all grew up with that. Deepa and myself, we're the only two progenies. And Deepa, I went in the direction of photography. That's what appealed to me. For me, the still frame became a very versatile tool to express. I always felt if I could write, if I could paint, I would have been a painter, a writer, whatever. But I could express myself through a still camera. And Deepa took the route thereon of filmmaking. And I often did think that, we almost co-directed this film.
Really?
Yeah, we did. And I came up with this brilliant idea, and she said, you're insane. And I said, perhaps. But look at it this way. We could be Canada and India's answer to the Coen brothers. And she said, you're definitely insane. But we seriously entertained that possibility. And then I think very sensibly, because we fought so much when we were writing it, lovingly. We're damn good friends. We're very. I love her dearly, and I know it's absolutely reciprocated. So we'd fight because of, I'd want my sentence in and she'd want her paragraph in. It was literally one of those things. But I was asked even last night when we had an OMDC screening that, what was the most difficult part of making the film? There wasn't. It was my debut feature. I had the most fun. I'm not one to get traumatized easily. Having been a photojournalist for 35 years for Time Magazine, for National Geographic, and for Life and Newsweek, and having been and suffered a lot of nonsense of what the world puts forth, unfortunately, you sort of you gear yourself for any adversity. Filmmaking should be a pleasure. I think anything in life should be a pleasure as long as you're doing it. You might as well enjoy it. But that's really what. It was great though. Deep and myself, we worked together on it. You can see her footprints all over the film as well.
Well, I feel so.
Nobody is knocking. Don't worry. That's terrible.
Well, you can also see your fingerprints all over it as well. Your background as a photographer, still photographer. There's a lot of shots in this film, I thought, that looked like you could just sort of snip a little bit of the film away and hang it on the wall, and you'd have a beautiful photograph.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, we had a extremely versatile DP. He and I, not always, but often enough, we matched frame to frame. And, nobody likes to be told what to do, but, I've come from a background of thing. So, I'd learned the art of diplomacy out here to say, well, how about shooting it this way? But no, I mean, Giles Nutkins is a phenomenal DOP, and as a person, as a matter of fact, who's part of the family now because he's shot 3 of Deepa's films, all the films in a trilogy he's shot. And everybody was wary that it's like, you're dipping into reserves out here or family treasures, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. And, he didn't fall short of his mark. He was good. He was good. I mean, it was enjoyable. It was a very enjoyable experience.
Well, congratulations on it.
Thank you so much, Richard. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Richard Krause.